Hello and a share. Today I would like to review this book, Herbcraft, a guide to shamanic and ritual use of herbs by Anna Franklin and Susan Lavender. And as you see, it's a big book. It took me a while to read this. And all in all, it's a wonderful book. I think that if you are a witch, any sort of a witch, that lives in England, you should have this book. You should own this book. You should look for it and get it. And it's very interesting how I got this book. I have a wonderful friend, a woman named Marina, and she brought a copy of this book for me to, she didn't know if it was a good book, a bad book, I was disrespecting Cunningham that other month, and she brought me this, and I said, okay, I didn't hear about this book, so it can't be that good, right? Because the good books are getting very high graded in Amazon and other places. Well, I opened it in one of the herbs, because this is basically an encyclopedia of herbs, and I saw this was such a good job writing about the book, writing about the herb, that I immediately had to get it, and I could only get this in that shop, the shop that is owned by Children of Artemis by www.witchcraft.org, because this is a very small print called Capel and Bab that I never heard of until basically when I got this book. And let me tell you a little bit about this. Well, this aspires to be a book about the herbs and the magical use of England, and this was written by by Wiccans, basically. And what they do is this: they choose a herb like frankincense, and it has like they write about it. They give you its botanical name, which is very important. Some books are missing that, you can't really identify the herb by the folk name. Other names, planetary rulers, correspondences, associated deities, natural history, how to gather it, how to grow it in the garden if it's all possible, again in England, lore, stories about this, legend about this, gods that are associated to it, herb simples, how to use it in healing, which is extremely important, and let me explain to you why later. Folk magic and magical uses, and then they give you recipes, and you have recipes here for everything from magical incenses to infused oils, even though I do argue with the methods of infusing, to making wine, liquor, and even chocolate mint ice cream. Yes, I shit you not, this book is comprehensive, very comprehensive. And I was taught by this book more than 3 things, and at this point in my development, if a book can teach me 3 things, this is a good book. And this is why this is beyond my basic grade for a good book. Now, this is something that I would use with also, you might be thinking, this is just for the British, because this is herbs that grow in the British Isles. But this is not just for the British. This is, it has stuff like apples and cloves and stuff that grows in North America and even North Africa. But this is, again, this is oriented towards the place in which it was written in, and I really wish that people would go on and do that. That they would write like an encyclopedia of magical herbs and usages according to the place in which they are in, because that would make things so much easier. So I would use that, in comparison with other pagan books, like Paul Bear's books. I would use Cunningham for reference, but nothing more. And in order to balance it with some more hoodoo books, like Root, herb magic by Catherine Ironwood and the Papa Jim herbal or something like that. I would use that to enrich the knowledge of the book. Now, I talked about the pros. Let's talk about the cons. First of all, I know it's petty, but the print is not that good. I don't know if you can see this. You can see this. As I was reading this book, it was falling apart and I had to glue it in. Okay? And this is not a very good tight binding. And I think this book should be hardcover. I think that when you make a book that is that massive, it cannot be paperback. It needs to be protected so it won't fall apart and we buy another one in a few months. And this fell apart in my first read, so I'm gonna take a really good care about this one. And I just know that in a few years this will be a book that is going to be held together by everything, basically. And then, like many weekend people, they have the tendency to only talk about the positive magic of herbs. It's it's very funny that Cunningham and also Anna Frank and Susan Lavender, when they talk about valerian root, they talk this is a replacement for graveyard dust in voodoo, which it isn't really. It might be an addendum. They both make the same mistake. They both write the same thing, and this is the black magic corner of that book. But there are many dark usages of magic that are not evil per se. For instance, certain historical spells that make people in prostitution be protected and make more money, or all sorts of protection from law. Some people needs to be protected from the law because what they do is not exactly legal, and this is not the job of the people writing the book to judge if that knowledge is in it or not. So please, don't assume that I need to know how to use a herb for love and not for protection, or even to hex my enemies. Sometimes my enemies needs to be hexed, okay? And if I don't have that knowledge in that book, or sometimes I need to take control over somebody's life because he or she is about to make a serious mistake. And sometimes dark magic is being used on me, and if only the positive properties of herbs are being written in that book, I will not know. Besides, maybe if it contains valerian root, that dark magic is being used against me. So this is a big flaw. And I wish people writing those books would reconsider fixing that flaw. Okay? There is no witch that is in the practice for more than 5 years that didn't get the chance to hex or participate in hexing someone, whether it be a rapist, a murderer, or anything. So please, do not shun the hexes when those are needed. But if you have a problem with that, understand that all forms of magic need to be studied, if not practiced. Even if hexing is not for you, you should at least know how to do that. And the writers of those books knows how to do that. You cannot have that encyclopedia knowledge of herbs without knowing how to cast hexes. So that's very nice that I know how to make a chocolate mint ice cream. But if I don't know how to make war water or a dolly from bryony root to hex my enemies or to protect myself while hexing my enemies, this book is losing somewhat of its value. Okay, another thing, but those are the flaws. This is it. There are no other flaws. Okay, so this book is virtually flawless, especially if you don't take this as your only herb witchcraft book. And another important thing I want to say for the pros of this book, and that is, okay, they return the herb symbols to magic and how to use herbs for healing. And why is that important? First of all, Cunningham doesn't have it, which is a great flaw for his book. But When you understand that the herb is diuretic or a laxative, you learn that this herb is for banishing. Okay, you don't have to be stuck with this classical bunch of herbs for banishing. If you understand that there are different kinds of banishing, if you understand that, you know, something is detoxifier, it's purifying, if you understand that something gets your heartbeat faster, this is a good thing for love. Herb magic doesn't just come from the form, the flavor, or the smell of the herb. It comes from its medicinal usages, and many people miss on the point that magic is all about, as above so below, not just in the form or smell, but also in the medicine of it. Herbal medicine is not just something that is convenient to use while you are at home. It's also the only kind of medicine many people had forever, and many people still has it. You know, at certain places in the US where people cannot afford a doctor, at certain places in Africa when people cannot afford a doctor, there are herbs. Even in Israel, the Ethiopian spice shops has large variety of Ethiopian grown herbs, because those people cannot use modern medicine, okay, or want to use modern medicine, and their medicinal usage comes with their magical uses. So you know, it makes things more interesting. It makes the understanding of herb usage more encyclopedic and more confound and more comprehensive. Okay, you need to know the what that herb does to you when you take it in, even if it's a poisonous herb. And those witches that knows more about herbs and are connected to herb spirits know how to add poisonous herbs to food and drink without killing people. And this is like, and you as witches, I talk to you, to the next generation of witches, you should aspire to get here. There is no real witchcraft without the knowledge of herbs. Not really. Go to ancient Greece and Rome. A witch was a pharmakia. A wizard was a pharmakos. From pharmacology, this is where it came from. Even ritual magicians today cannot deny their usages of herbs, whether it's like just the bromelain incense, or you know, the fact that many herbs are corresponding to the astrology magic that they do. It's very important. It's very, very important. So this book, I love it. It's a must-have. Very good one. This gets, 4.5 stars from 5. I hope you enjoy reading this. Goodbye and Ashe.